So as I said, I want to start talking about a couple of terms. So you've probably heard the Ilearn NYC platform term before. That is the name for Brightspace. And what is Brightspace? Well, it's the platform that's made by the company D2L. So D2L, or Desire to Learn, is the company that makes the platform Brightspace. And so Brightspace is the virtual learning space that you can use. And NYCDOE has kind of renamed it or rebranded it Ilearn NYC. So throughout the webinar today, I'm going to try as much as possible to refer to it as Ilearn NYC, but sometimes I slip up and call it Brightspace, or even some people call it D2L. And we're all talking about the same thing when we say any of those things. So D2L, Brightspace, Ilearn NYC, we're talking about the same thing, the learning platform. All right, so as I said, we're going to start with what is Ilearn NYC, and just to make sure we've got a real level playing field here, it's essentially, I try to say what it is in one sentence, and in one sentence, it is a K-12, so kindergarten through grade 12, can be used in any one of these grades, a virtual learning space that can support diverse needs of students through remote and hybrid or blended teaching. So I think there's a huge array of flexibility in the platform, and you can probably see that by the fact that we've got tools within the platform that can be used by kindergarten teachers all the way up to tools that can be used by grade 12 teachers. So not every teacher is going to use the same tools within the platform. Some are going to be useful to kindergarten teachers, some are going to be more useful to grade 12 teachers, but regardless, if you think about the student experience, they could have a consistent experience going through one platform from kindergarten to grade 12 and beyond, really, if people were to use Ilearn NYC consistently. So you can think of it as one platform comprised of many tools. So it's not just one tool that does one thing. It's an entire platform that does a whole host of things. And those things could be things like communicating with students or collaborating with students. And we've got a variety of tools to do that, like the announcements tool, the activity feed, the discussions tool, a virtual classroom tool, right? So there's multiple tools to do, to communicate and collaborate with your students in this space. Organizing course materials. We've got an amazing tool, the content tool, where you can build kind of a roadmap for your students and build an entire course within the platform. You can bring in third-party content, and it also integrates with Google Drive and OneDrive. So if you're someone who has a lot of documents on Google Drive, a lot of Google Docs, or a lot of slide presentations, no worries, you don't have to recreate those all in Ilearn NYC. You can just pull them in or kind of integrate them or link them within the platform. So no worries there. And then we've got tools for documenting student learning, so a portfolio tool, an assignments tool, a discussions tool, quizzes tool, all really great tools for assessment and evaluation. And then I think one of our strongest points, in my personal opinion, is our feedback and assessment features. So we've got an amazing rubrics tool, annotations that you can put on assignments. You can give written feedback, audio feedback, video feedback. There's just so many different ways to give feedback in the Ilearn NYC platform. And so that's really an overview of, this isn't every tool that's available within the platform, but it's probably some of the most commonly used ones and some of the strongest. There's lots of other tools in the platform, but this is just kind of an overview of some of the big things you can do. All right, so why use Ilearn NYC? So apart from, of course, all those reasons I just listed, all those wonderful tools that you have access to for collaborating, communicating, evaluating, all those things, there's some other reasons that I think are very important. Things like the fact that the Ilearn NYC platform can be essentially centrally managed, meaning that it's very easy to facilitate collaboration across schools, pass information between schools within the platform. It also integrates with the DOE systems already. So all of the creation of your courses, the management of your class lists, all of that is automatic. It doesn't fall on the shoulders of the teacher to manage. All of that is managed through your student information system and the integration with that system. It's obviously, it's a secure and private platform. We continually exceed security regulations and expectations for a learning management system. And we've got a number of certifications that speak to our level of security and privacy in the platform. As I mentioned, amazing tools for differentiating instruction. You can copy your course over from year to year. It integrates with Google Drive, lots of content, and the amount of analytics available. And so we have the ability to have analytics at a district level, but also for a teacher, you can see some pretty amazing analytics around how your students are interacting with the material and with your course. And so, for example, in our content tool, where if you teach slightly older grades or maybe grade 4 and beyond, you might have an actual kind of course laid out in your content tool. And if there's items, so for example, a PDF or a Google slide presentation, I would be able to see as a teacher which students have looked at that material, how long they spent looking at that material, how many times they've looked at that material. So there's a ton of analytics to get some insight into how students are interacting with your course, and maybe will help you identify some trends around if you have a struggling student. Maybe you can see that they're really not logging in that often, or they haven't viewed any of the material that you did a test on through the quiz tool. That might give you some insight or be a starting place for a conversation. So really, really amazing analytics. All right. So I hope you're in. I hope that that gives you, again, like I said, it's not all the benefits, it's not everything, it's just some of the ones that I think are probably most important for me, especially as a former teacher, some of the things that I'd probably care about the most. And so with that, I'd like to actually jump into the platform and start exploring and show you around a little bit. So to get logged in, you would go to ilearnnyc.net and you would log in with your NYCDOE Outlook credentials. And students do the same thing. They would go to the ilearnnyc.net page and they would log in with their regular credentials as well. And if there's ever any trouble signing in or trouble with login credentials, you follow the same protocol you would follow with any other system that you might be having trouble logging in, logging a ticket with the DOE tech support area. All right, so once you're in, I'm going to jump into the platform, but I just want to talk about some of the things that you are going to see when you log in. So when you log in for the first time, you'll actually fall right now on the Summer in the City homepage, and that's going to change in September. In September, you'll fall on your school homepage, and I'll show you that once we jump in. But we're going to go through essentially kind of some of the key elements that we see in the Ilearn NYC platform, or elements that are consistent no matter where you are in the platform, and then how things change depending on where you navigate. So let's take a look. All right, so I've logged in. I'm going to refresh my page just to make sure I didn't get automatically logged out because I've been sitting here for a second. Yep. So you see here, I'm Tammy Teacher right now, and I'm logged in and I've landed on the district Summer in the City homepage. Now, when you first log in, you may have this little pop-up that says, welcome to Ilearn NYC for teachers. And that kind of gives you a little overview of some basic things to help you get started. If you go to next and read about the help documentation, and then when you hit dismiss, that means that the next time that you log in, that won't pop up automatically. So if you've read through that and you're done with it, just make sure you hit dismiss, and then the next time you log in, it won't pop up. If you ever need it again though, it's down here at the bottom here, this welcome tour. All right, let me go back up to the top. So we've dismissed that. Now I want to take you through this page. Now, as I mentioned, this is the Summer in the City homepage, and all of the announcements pertain to information around summer school. But in the fall, you will be switched over to your school landing page. So you won't actually land here. You'll land on a homepage that is for your school. But the layout and the elements that you see will remain consistent. So I want to take you through some of those. So up at the very top, this always stays the same, this area here. So Ilearn NYC, that's a live link or a live button. You can click on that and that will always take you to your home. And so right now I've just logged in, but if we were in a course, for example, if I clicked on this, this would take me back to the page that we're on right now, and I'll show you that a little later. Right here, this is your course selector. So there's actually two ways to get into a course. You can use this course selector, or down here there's this My Courses widget. And they're actually kind of related to each other. They talk to each other. So if I pin courses, which essentially means that you've put a little pin in them to think of them as pinning them up in your My Courses area, then they will show up in this My Courses area, and it's like a little shortcut to them. And so you'll notice if I click on this, this shows me all of the courses that I have access to as Tammy teacher. These are all the courses that I'm enrolled in. You'll notice you should see one course at minimum called Ilearn NYC 101 training course. You're actually enrolled as a student into that course, and it's a great course that I'll talk about at the end of our session today. And then you may also have a Sandbox course. And so a Sandbox course is a course that it's a term we use to refer to a play space, a dummy course that you can, there's no students enrolled in it. It's just an empty space where you can practice and play and build in. So if you do have a Sandbox course, that is your free place to go and play around and kind of try things out without knowing that, students aren't going to see it or nobody else is going to see it. But as I mentioned, there's this pinning function. So right now, the 5 courses that I have access to are all pinned because that little pin is colored in. So if I click on that, you'll notice it uncolors, and you can see the My Courses widget changing here. So the courses that I have pinned are going to appear in the My Courses widget. And I use all 5 of these courses, so I want them all pinned in that widget, which essentially just gives you like a quick little shortcut to those courses. Now you get this nice little visual tile here. You can click on it. As soon as you log in, you can click on it and away you go. It saves you one click from having to go up to the course selector. But they both take you to the same place. They're both two different ways to get into a course. Most people, like I said, though, they do prefer the My Courses widget. It's a little more visual and it saves you a click. All right, so that's the first thing I want to show you was pinning your course so it shows up in the My Courses widget. So if you are following along with me, if you're clicking along and you're logging in as well, feel free to pin your Sandbox course if you have one, or that Ilearn NYC training course, because those are both going to be very useful courses to you. Moving along to the right side, we've got your notifications area. And so if you see a little orange dot, that means you have a notification. There's notifications around instant messaging, discussion threads, and for students, if they receive a grade on something or receive feedback on something, they'll get a notification up here in this area as well. So those are all areas you can click on if you have a notification and check out your notifications. So you can see here, if there was an announcement posted in a course that you're in, you'll get a notification for it. All right, moving along here, you should see your name up at the top here once you're logged in. And you can see by default, the image that it puts here is just your initials. So Tammy Teacher is TT. So we see that here, but you can change that in your profile. You can upload a photo of yourself and make it a little more personal. So I'll show you that in just a second. But what I'm gonna do is click on my name and just point out some of the things I see under here. And so the first one is the profile. And so that's where you can change your picture. That's probably the first thing you want to do. And so if I click on that, right there, there's change picture. And from there, you can upload from your computer. If you have a photo on your computer, you can upload it. There are some other options that you can fill out if you want, but I'd probably recommend for sure the picture. And so when you do that, that picture will be visible to all your students. Anytime you sort of interact in the platform where it has your name, your picture will be beside it. And by the way, students can do this too. So this area here, students, they have access to these same areas. Below that, there's My Portfolio, and so that refers to your teacher portfolio that you could take advantage of. But like I said, students have the same view, so they can access their portfolios through here. And I know there's a session on portfolio a little bit later this week where you'll learn all about that tool. The next one is notifications. So if I click into that, the first thing that we see is a banner for the Pulse app. So we do have an app that students can download, and for you as well, you're welcome to download it, which is a great tool, especially or a great app for older students, or obviously students who have their own devices. It is a specially built app specifically for students. So like I said, teachers are welcome to download it if they like the idea of that sort of quick access to their course. You can use it, but it really is aimed at students in that it has features within it to help them manage their time, to help them recognize when they have weeks with a lot of due dates coming up and a lot of things that they have due. It sort of focuses on time management a little bit. So you can definitely download that app, but you don't need the app to access the platform from your mobile device. So the entire platform is responsive. And what that means is if I were to shrink this down, this browser window, down to the shape of a phone, you'll notice that the options here collapsed into a side menu, and you can navigate the platform. Everything kind of sandwiches below itself, and you can navigate the platform very easily on your phone. So you don't need to worry about that horizontal scroll bar and moving all around. It'll look great as long as you have a web browser. But again, like I said, if you like that quick access, you can download the app, but certainly not required. Down below that, you've got some options for instant notifications. So if you have registered your mobile, you can get instant notifications to your phone via text message. This is probably, again, more relevant for students who have their own cell phone. They would be able to send instant notifications, but really to their phone. But really in this day and age, most people just go with the app, right? So this app will send notifications instantly through the app, obviously, and they'll get them there. So as these instant notifications, I would say, are a little bit of an either or. Either download the app or you can sign up for these instant notifications if you want. But like I said, these instant notifications are mostly for students, or notifications that students care about, like when you as the teacher add more content to the course, they might want a notification for it. Or when you as the teacher make an announcement in your course, they might want a notification for it. So not something you need to do, but something you might want to tell your students about if you do teach students who have their own device. And then down below that, we've got account settings. So I'm going to head in there. And under account settings, these are account settings per user. So these are your account settings. Every student will have their own account settings that look just like this as well. They can come into this area and do things like increase the font size. And so great for students if they have a visual impairment, or if you just prefer a larger or smaller font, you can change the font size here. And if I scroll down, these settings here relate to any student who's using a sort of assistive technology around, maybe it's a screen reader or some sort of feature that's reading the content on the screen. There's some really good settings to turn on here to make the platform work well with that screen reader, with that assistive technology. And so we take accessibility very, very seriously here at D2L. And so these settings are very important for students who are using that, and make the platform much more usable if these settings are turned on for them. And so this is a great place to point your students to if you know you have students who do use assistive technology, or even if you yourself use it, you can come in here and adjust some of these settings. Now, if I scroll down a little bit further, there's a section on Locale and Language, and this allows you to choose from, I think it's 13 or so, 13 different languages. So if you prefer, or if your students prefer to browse the platform in one of these languages, they are absolutely welcome to switch the language and do that. Now, it won't change the content that you're uploading. It'll change all of the menu bars, all of this, all of the information in here would change to the language they've selected. All of these menu bars at the top, those kinds of things would change. And then down below that, there's some other, I just call them nitty-gritty settings, likely not things that you need to worry about, but there are some settings you can change around the date display options and the number format and things like that. But the key ones to note in account settings are really just the language, the assistive technology settings, and the font size. And so if you want to point your students to that area, you can, or of course you yourself, you may want to adjust some of these. So that's account settings, and then the last one is just log out. But we don't want to do that. So we're done. That's the top area here. And now I want to go back to that main page where I landed. So if you remember, this button right here will always take you back home. And so I'll go there. All right, so now we're back and we've talked about this area here. The next area down here, this is your navigation bar for when you're at the school level, or in this case, the Summer in the City homepage. And so there's a couple of links here that will change in the fall because you'll be landing on the Summer in the City, on your school homepage by that time. So those are most often just helpful links to help you get started, or links to relevant sites for either the school, or in this case, you can see these are links to relevant sites for Summer in the City. Down below that, I've already talked about this My Courses widget, so we know how to get courses in there, and you can get into your course by just clicking on one of those. We'll go there in a minute, but I just want to call out this announcements area. So every school homepage likely will have an announcements area where school announcements can be made here. And so this is a good place to take a look, see if your school's made any announcements, get information around anything that your school is communicating out to students or staff. So that is this homepage, and now I want to go into a course. So think of this as, I always like to say, you're walking into your school. So in the fall, you'll land on your school homepage. So you've walked into the building, and then clicking on one of these is you're walking into your classroom. So I'm going to go into a sample course. Actually, I'm going to go into, it's not the one I want, this one. And so now I'm in a sandbox course. Again, that's the terminology we use for a fun play space to play and build in. And I want to talk about some of the things that we see that have changed. So the navigation bar. Right, these options up at the top, these look different than what we saw on the Summer in the City district level homepage. These are now tools that you can use for, or buttons you can use for navigating within your course. Okay, so before we were at the Summer in the City level, or in the fall, your school level. Now we're at the course level, and these are all buttons for navigating within your course. And so you'll notice if you have a little arrow here, that means that your navigation bar kind of falls on two lines, and so there might be some hidden options there. So just take a look for that. The other one I want to point out is course admin. Every navigation bar should have course administration or course admin, and that is where you can go to access every single tool within your course. So up on this navigation bar, these are kind of the most popular tools in the toolkit There's a number of tools available there. And so the DOE has kind of, or Ilearn has picked out what are the most popular tools that teachers use, and let's give them quick access on this navigation bar. But if ever you've learned about a tool that you can't find and it's not on your navigation bar, you can go to Course Admin, and that will give you a list of all the tools within your course, and you can navigate to those tools as well. I want to point out that students actually don't see Course Admin because they don't have the permission to be administering your course or changing anything in your course. And so if you're ever curious, what do students see when they come into your course? If you click on your name, now that I'm inside of a course, I have this option to view as student. So if I click on that, what will happen is my page will refresh, and you can see now it says Tammy Teacher as student. And now you'll notice my navigation bar is not 2 lines anymore because that course admin has disappeared and that get help here has popped up to the top. And so now I see what students see. Looks pretty similar, but nonetheless, you get the student view. And so this is useful if you're building content and you want to see what students see, or you're in the assignments tool and you want to see what assignments they can see. We do have indicators, obviously, in the teacher view, but some people just like that reassurance of being able to view as student. So that's an option. You'll also notice that portfolio icon changed. That was the other change that happened. So they have my portfolio and they can get into their portfolio from here as well. Don't forget to stop viewing as student once you're done. Some people forget they're viewing as student and then they try to make an announcement or they try to do something that a student wouldn't be able to do, and they don't have those options. So you have to remember to stop viewing as a student. And so you do that by clicking on your name again, and then it says viewing as student. So you just hit the little X. And then your page will refresh again and you're back in as you. And so you see portfolio has gone back to that leaf instead of that little, his name is Funster, the Funster monster. All right, now down below that, I did promise that I would show you some very easy and quick ways to personalize your course. And so by default, the message that's in here in this welcome banner is going to match the name of your course. And so you can see that I've actually customized this. I've changed it to something else. And that's a really fun, quick way to, like I said, customize your course. You can also change the image that's here, and we have a very large library of images available, or you can upload your own. And so the way to do that is on the 3 dots here. You'll see those options. So you can remove the banner if you don't even, maybe you don't want the banner, you want to simplify your home page, or you can change the image, which I'll do now. So here, if this is a Sandbox course, I like using the Sandbox one. I can select that, and now the image has changed. If I go back to that, just want to show you that upload button, so you can upload from your computer and pull from there. So my computer and pull from there, or you can search by keyword. So let's say science, for example. Lots of great images you can use for science. And so you just search by keyword. So I'll close that. And then, as I said, you can also change the banner text. And so by doing that, you can highlight it. And put your own message in there and hit save. And so that's a fun thing you can do throughout the semester, throughout the year as well, and kind of switch it up and change it or keep it consistent. It's totally up to you. Down below that, there's a couple of widgets. And so I'm not sure if I mentioned this prior, but I want to make sure it's clear. When you come into a course, every course has a home page as well. So just like your school level has a home page, every course has a home page as well. And your home page is comprised of widgets, which are little tools or little windows into other tools that usually convey information. And so on the default homepage, you have a course overview widget where you can get an idea of how many students have visited your course. And there's a couple other options underneath here for getting a little bit more insight into how students are interacting with your course. There's an activity feed widget, which we'll talk about in another session today. An announcements widget, which we'll also talk about in another session. And these are two great tools for communicating with students or posting messages out to students. And those are kind of by default the three widgets that are on your homepage. But like I said, you'll learn a little bit more about those ones in the next session. And that's really everything I wanted to show you at the course level. We haven't done anything in the course yet except for made it our own a little bit by changing the banner image and changing the text. But like I said, throughout the course of the day, you'll learn a little bit more about some of the tools in here, like the announcements, the activity feed, some of the other options that, that are in the course you'll learn all throughout the week. So the last thing I want to talk about is where can you get more information? Where can you do a little bit of self-directed learning or learn things, get help if you need help? And so for that, I want to go back to the Ilearn NYC Summer and Study homepage. So I'll just click on Ilearn NYC, back to where I started. And you'll notice there's this Get Help Here icon. Actually, sorry, before I talk about that one, I want to talk about that Ilearn NYC 101 training course. So hopefully you pinned that one. And if I click into that, you'll see there's an announcement here, there's an activity feed post, and you can go right to content to get started. Now, as I mentioned, you are enrolled as a student into this course, so it's a really great way to experience navigating through a course as a student, and also a great way to learn about the platform. And so if you come in here, there are links to some great webinars, there's some getting started manuals, and then it kind of takes you through how you might organize your learning for each week of school. So before you meet your class, what are some things you can learn about for using the Ilearn NYC platform? And so there's some basic things for getting started there. And then what might you want to do in your first week? Maybe telling your students about the Ilearn NYC platform, how you're going to use it, communicating with parents and guardians, student introductions. That's a sample activity or something you could do to get students used to using the platform, and so on. So this is a really great course to work through on your at your own pace, and like I said, get the experience of navigating a course for through the student's perspective. And then if I head back, I want to also point out some of those things within the Get Help Here option. So under Get Help Here, so that's on your navigation bar, there's Get Help Here, this Ilearn support link. And so if I click on that, it's going to open up another page, and this is managed and built and maintained by the iZone team. And this is a really great tool as they've curated videos. They've posted their own specially created videos for the NYCDOE teachers, so that you can learn about kind of the most important parts of the platform through videos, mostly through videos. All right, so check that one out. Then there's also these three here. So Brightspace Community, Brightspace Documentation, and Brightspace YouTube. And so these are three great resources built and maintained by D2L. So not by Ilearn specifically, but by D2L. So they're not specific to NYC, but they are great resources to explore. So the community where you can join, if you log in, create a username and password, you can join and post questions, learn about updates, get answers to your questions, that kind of thing. Or we have our documentation site where you can search by keyword for tools that you're looking for, or go to instructors and look at some of the key workflows that instructors want to do and how to do that. And then we have a YouTube channel as well, which is great for short little 2 to 3 minute videos on quick little tutorials on how to do various things with it within the platform. And so our YouTube channel is Brightspace Tutorials if you do ever want to subscribe and check out all the videos there. You'd be looking for videos that say for instructors, so not for administrators, not for learners, but for instructors. All right, I think that is basically everything I wanted to show you today. I know you've got a couple of other great sessions lined up today. We've got about 8 minutes or 6 minutes or so to finish off the session and answer any questions. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I know we've had some of our panelists here today answering some questions, so thank you for that. And I'll take a look at the question area here as well right now. And then if any other panelists want to add anything, they're welcome to as well. All right, so I see Renee's question here. Is there a translation feature? Is there a translation for students in their portfolio? So if they were to, Renee, I don't know if you caught the beginning of the presentation, if they were to change their account settings to a different language, they would be able to view portfolio in a different language. So I don't know if you were talking about, there's a couple different elements of portfolio in terms of them posting a reflection on their artifact. We don't have, there's no translation feature for the system to actually translate live, you know, what the student is saying, but the student would be able to navigate the tool within the language of their choice from that list of 13 or so that are available in the platform. Awesome. Any other questions? And just make sure you use the Q&A. I am noticing, I'm not monitoring the chat, but I did notice, Gregory, this question here. Is there an info sheet for parents or an introductory video designed for parents to familiarize with Ilearn and what it's all about? And so, yes, we do have a page for that. Just give me a sec while I grab that link. And so any links I'm going to post in the chat actually, because when I post it in the Q&A, it's not a clickable link and it just ends up being frustrated because you can't copy and paste it either. So Gregory, to answer your question here, this is a site designed for parents. And it gives a little overview of what is Brightspace or Ilearn NYC, how to navigate in the common tools, an introduction to navigating Brightspace for families, which is a great little webinar for them to watch, information about Pulse, that app I talked about, the portfolio tool, lots for them to explore there. No problem. And yeah, Andy, so yes, you will have access to this recorded webinar later on. This is being recorded and it'll be posted. I'll leave it up to the panelists to talk about where, but my guess is on the Ilearn NYC support site that I showed you. So Jessica, for younger children, are there ways to add voice to home screen widgets? There's not a way to add voice to home screen widgets. We do have, you'll notice in the content area, I'm not sure if I have a course here. Let me see if I can show you this. But whenever you have content in your course, so whether it's a Word document, a PDF, something you've pulled in from Google Drive, whatever it is, there is an integration. And it is called, if I switch to view as student, basically they'll have a little button that will say read. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it will read the content to the student. I'm trying to find it if I have an example here. And so they have that option. There it is, Doc Reader. There we go. They can click on Doc Reader and then it will read the content for them. Or there's also that text aid option as well that they can use, which is an integration with another tool to be able to have things read to you. I don't have an account, so I can't log in, but students and teachers would be able to. No problem. Can the language on the parent page also be changed? Rose, that parent page that I sent, that is one that is, that's just a regular website, so it doesn't exist within your platform. So if parents wanted to change it, they could just use, as if they were browsing any other website, use like a browser translation option. But which Chrome always has and many browsers have. They could switch the language here because, like I said, this is a D2L page. So does the student have to change back to English every time in this setting after they finish viewing the language translation of their home language? Right, so William, when you're in the platform, you can choose all these options here, all these settings, like class list, my portfolio, content. Do you want to see those words in English or in the language of your choice? It won't change. So this document here, 10 rules for writing fiction, that's a Word document that I've uploaded. It's not going to translate that information. So that's going to stay in English. Whatever the content that the teacher has uploaded, it's not going to translate that, but all of the menu options and things like that, those are going to change. And so you select the language that you want. If you don't want to view it in that language anymore, then you would go back to your settings and change it to a different language. But I just want to make sure it's clear that the content that this teacher is uploading, that it's not going to translate that. Hope that answers your question. Awesome. All right, I'm going to stop the recording now. Stop.